our self-limiting beliefs around what we think we have to do in order to make money. I think a part of what I call the toxic patriarchal paradigm that we are conditioned based on our mothers and their mothers' mothers and their mother's mother's mother in order for us to win in this world today as women. And I just think it's one big lie.
Hi, I'm Jacqueline Snyder, and this is the Product Boss Podcast. I've helped launch and grow thousands of product-based businesses, even one of my own. And over the last 20 years, I've seen behind the scenes of businesses just like yours. Whether they are makers, manufacturers, artists, or food and beverage businesses, I have spent so many hours studying it all. I've discovered what makes them successful, what mistakes they could have avoided, how did they turn their ideas into a successful business, and what are the strategies that they have used to make more sales and be discovered by more customers. And this is what this show is all about. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to become $1 million product boss, I'm here to give you the permission to chase your dreams, no matter how big or small. All you need is the right mindset, a little courage, strategy, and support, and you too can be the next $1 million product boss. Let's do this. Hey friend. Okay, welcome back to another episode of The Product Boss. I'm so happy that you are here today, and I hope you're having an incredible summer and doing all the things and getting the rest and getting the sunshine, or maybe you're on the other side of the world and it's the winter for you, wherever you're at. I hope you're enjoying all of it and that you're getting the light, right? That it's shining down on you and you're feeling aligned. Now, today, I have a chance to chat with an incredible woman that I have been so inspired by. I've been following her for so many years, and I'm really excited because now I get to call her my friend. So I have Jessica Zweig on the show. Now, for those of you who don't know Jessica, she is a serial entrepreneur. She's founded 3 businesses, including Simply Be, the nation's premier personal branding company, which she just recently sold, which is absolutely incredible. And she's a #1 best-selling author. Now, Jessica's newest book, which is what we're talking about today, is The Light Work. Reclaim your feminine power, live your cosmic truth, illuminate the world, and it hits shelves in August. And it's all about unlocking your infinite potential in every area of your life and becoming your own inspiration. And I say all of this because just within the first chapter, I was mesmerized by the story she shares, how she shares about the light and how we can reclaim our feminine power and live our truths in just such alignment. And so we get deep into it and we dig into the book and into more ways because Jessica just is a light. She truly is a light. And when you're around her and in her presence, you also feel transformed. And so I'm just so excited to share her with you here on the show. So if you're ready to illuminate your own life and to see what's possible and reclaim your power, I can't wait to share this with you. So let's dive in. Hey friend. Okay, in case you missed it, HubSpot's inbound conference is happening in Boston from September 18th to the 20th, and you do not want to miss it. And let me tell you why, okay? I'm so excited for the speaker lineup. Let me tell you who I will be sharing the stage with. I mean, not at the same time, but maybe hopefully at the same time. Who even knows, okay? Ryan Reynolds and Serena Williams will be sharing their journeys and their paths to success with their businesses. I mean, Ryan Reynolds is a genius marketer, okay? And I cannot wait to hear what he has to say in his keynote. And I'm just excited and amazed to be sharing my knowledge and discussing social content strategies that will help you create content to sell your products. I mean, there's just gonna be so much goodness and it's all gonna be about marketing and so many other things. And it's gonna be amazing. And that's why you want to be there. Because when you come join, and this is how I feel at conferences, you're gonna leave and feel educated, you're gonna feel inspired, you're gonna feel re-energized, and you're gonna have networked and connected with so many other incredible business owners. It's just gonna be amazing. I can't wait to see you there. Visit inbound.com to see the lineup and grab your tickets today. Jessica, welcome to the Product Boss. I'm so excited to have you. We are new friends and I love you already.
Oh my God. The second you opened your mouth at Kathy Heller's house, I was like, that girl, she's cool. I want to be friends with her. I'm not kidding.
That's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I've been a fan for a really long time and following you and just sort of like the light that you bring into the world. And then when you were at Kathy's, I was just like, oh my gosh, I get to meet her in real life. And so I'm just so glad that we ended up connecting and then like bonding and all the things. And then I'm having you on the show, one, because you're just amazing. And two, because you've just released a new book. It's The Light Work. Reclaim your feminine power, live your cosmic truth, and illuminate the world. And I have to tell you that my goal, I don't think I've shared this with you, but this year was to really lean more into my feminine. I operate so much in my masculine, and we can kind of dig into that for people who are like just starting to hear about the feminine versus the masculine, but that sort of doing energy and that hustle and that grind. And so this year, I really believe that I needed to sort of release a lot of that and be more in receiving. And so this book is just so good. But before we get into that, would you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to be here, Jacqueline, and honored to speak to your community of students. I'm Jessica. I've been, I get this question all the time, like, how do I define myself? I start obviously with what I do, which is very masculine, but I'll start with who I am before anything. I'm a wife, a dog mom, an aunt, very much identify as a spiritual person before I even identify as a business person. But I have definitely, I call it like quote unquote one in the business world, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've built 3 companies. I recently sold my second company. I've been in the space of digital marketing, personal branding, social media, PR for my entire career. Started my first business when I was 26, didn't know anything about anything. Ran that business for 7 years. It was a digital magazine for women. It was a critical success, but a financial failure, and left me in a lot of debt and quite frankly, emotional ruin, and took all those hard won lessons, if you will, and applied that to business number 2, which was my agency. I ran a company called the Simply Be Agency for 7 years, kind of in these 7-year sprints. And that business took off right away. We were a personal branding agency. We became one of the most notable agencies in the country for personal branding. I created a methodology. I wrote my first book, which was called Be, scaled that business to a multi-million-dollar business in less than 5 years, and grew a team of 30 people in 5 years from 1 woman to 30. It was a rocket ship, actually. It was quite incredible, but also quite chaotic. And that business, after 5.5 years, around the 5.5 year mark, I should say, I hit burnout. And really, we use that word burnout a lot in our culture. And I mean, it's true. We're all tired. We're all working really hard and not prioritizing ourselves the way we should. But I was diagnosed with situational depression and couldn't leave my house for months, because I was so diagnosed with depletion and physical burnout that impacted my mental health. And that turning point really set me on my own journey of healing, not just to heal the system and my body, but my beliefs around what, I had adopted as truth when it came to building a business and what I needed to do and how I needed to operate, which was really antithetical, I believe, to the way women are designed to build businesses. And so I write about a lot of that journey in my new book, The Light Work, but I essentially healed my system, healed my business, actually, got a lot of the right people in place to help me run it so that I could get out of the weeds in the day to day, and continued to grow it until last year when we sold the business. I sold the company to Hawk Media. And now I'm on my 3rd venture, where I am coaching women on the true intersection of business, branding, and spirituality and divine feminine leadership. And I'm really excited about what I'm doing right now because it's truly my calling. I really believe that we as women are designed and meant to lead in this world. We're rising. It's such an exciting time to be a female entrepreneur, but we are doing it in a way I think that's a little backwards. And so I'm working with a lot of women who are building beautiful things, but also want to honor their bodies at the same time. And I'm here in Nashville and just love. I was in Chicago for 20 years, and I've moved to greenery and birds chirping in the morning, and have really 180'd my life, honestly, in the last, year and a half, to really walk the walk, if you will. And I'm just so excited to talk to your community about all the above, all the things.
So good. Yeah. It's funny because I started my first business at 27 as well. Like you're at 26. So,
Wow.
and I think what you're saying is like, and embodying or being in the masculine a little bit more is that for me at least, coming out of corporate and then starting my own business, I don't think that there was a lot modeled for women in business. If you think about when we were growing up, and I think about the moms, they were either stay-at-home moms, moms that were teachers, or moms that had careers, and then they called the kids latchkey kids, right? So you were
So
like either like,
accurate. That was my
yeah,
mom. She was a teacher. My husband was a latchkey kid. His mom, they're that boomer generation for sure.
yeah. And so it was like that was it. It was like an all or nothing in a way. And like they defined your children as latchkey, which I'm sure our moms were like, this is something that they didn't want it. And then I remember working in corporate, and I was afraid to get pregnant. I was afraid to start a family. And then even when I had my own business, I was afraid to tell my clients that I was pregnant because of that like stop and start sort of situation. And so, but there's not, I feel like there's not a lot of modeling for us. And so we are paving this way and sort of having to figure it out. And the next generations of girls and women will have a different way of approaching, including the men in our lives, right? Like that, like my husband holds so much, he's not feminine, but he holds the feminine energy as well. Like he doesn't have to be so far into the masculine. So I think it's a really cool time that we're in. It's hard for the leaders, figuring it out and stumbling and tripping through it. But it's really interesting. And the thing that I know is that I've also hit burnout, and I also had situational depression and anxiety, where it wasn't all the time, but it was like these huge situations. And my first time happened working for somebody. So, the idea, like, what would you say are some early signs in that process if people are starting to hit burnout, to look at initially? Because I think we don't talk about, we're like, I feel burnt out, but we don't talk about it enough. It's like, how much do we keep putting on our plate and expect like, this is, when you're like, this is no, I can handle it. Like, this is enough. And then one day it just breaks.
My therapist advised me to speak to a psychiatrist to put me on medication because I was feeling like such death, and I was open to it. I got referred to a holistic psychiatrist instead, and he told me he didn't want to put me on medication, that he wanted to look at my sleep first, my hormones second, and then we actually did a ketamine protocol, which is a psychedelic modality that was 6 IV infusions in the span of 2 weeks, 3 sessions a week for 2 weeks, and it cleared my depression. But back to sleep, one of the things when I know I'm really burnt out is even if I am getting 7, 8 hours of sleep, I wake up and I'm still tired. I wake up every day and I'm tired. If you become moody, short tempered, impatient, not really being kind, for me, when I'm burnt out, my husband gets it the worst, but I'm not my highest self. I'm not in my highest vibration of joy and of play. And I know that sounds trivial, but it's really when we're in those energies that we become magnetic and things start to flow in our lives. If your life isn't flowing, if things feel hard, if things are constantly breaking down, if the smallest things trigger you, trip you up. One of the, I think, foundational things is literally scheduling in time for play. I have a hack where I color code my calendar. Work is blue, workouts are green, yellow is self-care like nails and my eyebrows and hair appointments, and pink is play and delight with my husband, date nights. I have blocks called creative time. It's purple. So I want my calendar to look like a rainbow every single week, because if it doesn't, I can see that I'm not balanced. I can see that I'm overworking myself. I think that when we become burnt out, it's not just a mental and a physical symptom, it's a nervous system symptom, and our nervous system is really the foundation to our immunity, believe it or not. So are you getting sick often? Are you feeling run down? Do you feel like your throat hurts, your head hurts, your nose is stuffy? Maybe you have an autoimmune trigger. I did, and that keeps flaring up. I mean, your body is your map. It's constantly telling you, how it wants you to treat it. And I think when we're in a state of grind that leads to burnout, it's really our bodies that are suffering and calling out for our attention. So are you slowing down enough to even hear it? Do you have a relationship with your body? Most women just hate their bodies because of the way that today's culture has programmed us to believe that we're not thin enough, fit enough, whatever enough. And, we're hooked on like supplements. We don't even know why we're taking them, and medications. Like, to really build a sacred relationship with your body, I think is foundational. And if one, that is going to be I think a speed route trained to burning your body out. And, I'll just also say, like, really Your boundaries? Like, do you have boundaries? Are you saying yes to everything? Do you really have to be in every single meeting, or can someone else run that meeting? Or can that meeting be 20 minutes versus an hour? Um, uh, we want to take opportunities when we're growing as entrepreneurs to get asked to be on podcasts, speaking engagements, collaborations, affiliate partnerships. And is it a full yes in your body and your highest service to your, not just your mission, but your life and the desires you have for balance and really coming back to what feels good in your gut and saying yes to far less actually than you say no. I mean, I could go on and on, but those are the things that I would look at, in addition to the beliefs, our self-limiting beliefs around what we think we have to do in order to make money and scale, which is, I think, a part of this, what I call the toxic patriarchal paradigm that we are conditioned based on our mothers and their mothers' mothers and their mother's mother's mother in order for us to win in this world today as women. And I just think it's one big lie, honestly.
Yeah. And it's an unlearning, it's my friend Mel, Abraham said, he's like, sometimes it's caught, not taught. And so much of what we've caught, it's just like what we've seen and viewed and that kind of thing. And so, when we're, as we're thinking about it ourselves and thinking we've either been on the brink of burnout or maybe, some listeners are at burnout right now, another thing that I love that you talk about, and it's, part of the book, which is the light work, is being the light. And thinking about that. So let's just say before we can be the light, we have to find our light, right? So how do you think others can avoid burnout and find their light? Like how do we start that journey in finding our light, especially if we haven't been living in this sort of like, you said, I think you started with it, who you're a spiritual person first and foremost. And I think for so long, let's say for me, I was in survival versus spiritual and embodying. So how could you envision helping others avoid burnout and finding their light?
So are you ready to go deep, Jacqueline? Because we're going to talk about
I'm so excited. Let's do this.
I wrote this book called The Light Work, and I make a joke that I could have called it The Dark Work because there's no spiritual bypassing in this book. There's no, toxic positivity in this book. It is a real honest unpacking of the difficulties that we face specifically as women being human right now on this planet at this time, which is, we're bombarded with a lot of pain and suffering when it comes to our relationships with money, our relationships with others, our relationship to self. And where we find our light, I often say, is actually in the dark. To really hold ourselves radically responsible for the co-creation of what's happening to us in our lives. And nothing is really happening to us. That's victim mentality. But what is happening right now that is for us? And if we can accept the assignment to really take an honest look at our own behaviors, our own choices, our own thoughts and beliefs and actions, we then are able to journey through the dark. We are able to meet what's happening with us with empowerment. And I believe that we can't without the dark. That's where it's called polarity and duality. And we are here in this human experience in this, what I call 3D dimension that is comprised of duality, love and fear, black and white. And we have to work with our shadows. We have to work with our dark. So for example, I mean, not to speak to like woo and above, the heads of anyone, but for the longest time, I actually went broke when I was 33 and had this traumatic life event after my first business. I completely bottomed out, the business dried up and we were left with $75,000 worth of credit card debt. And that certainly felt like it was happening to me at the time. I was definitely in a victim state when that happened. And I realized that I had this story my whole life that I was bad with money, that I never really knew numbers and that spreadsheets scared me and I didn't really like it. And so I had all this shame around it. And I had to really look at where that came from and that I was avoiding money and that I was not wanting to look at my bank account statements and I wasn't taking responsibility for what I was spending. And that was really painful, more painful than actually going into debt. It was like, wow, Jessica, you created this. Like you have to really start to tell yourself a new story and work on getting good at this. And that's when it, really changed. I tell the story in the book about before I met my husband. I was the girl that was always unlucky in love, and that guys only wanted sex, and the ones I chased never wanted me back. And, they're all narcissists. And I had this perpetual pattern of attracting that kind of guy. And then I told myself I was really ready for a new type of relationship because I was honoring myself. I had to look at my own voids of why I didn't feel complete without a partner, why I was chasing these emotionally unavailable men, why I was romanticizing love and the drama and the Romeo and Juliet fairy tale. Like that was all on me. And so it's a very, very big question, which you asked, like, how do we find our light? And I really believe it's a never ending journey. And we have to sometimes learn those same lessons over and over and over again until we finally integrate them. But it's the path of radical responsibility is what I call it. Knowing that when you point one finger at somebody else, you have three pointing back at you. And that's the heart of what I call personal growth, like to take that ownership of your contribution to your own unhappiness. Just a pretty big flex. And it takes a lot of support most of the time with great coaches and therapists and books and conversations like this. But I believe that's what we're really here to do. And when we integrate our shadows with our light, because we're never going to be fully healed and we're never going to have it all figured out and never fully perfect. But when we call ourselves out on our own ish, like we're unstoppable. No one can tell us what we don't already know about ourselves. And not to say that it won't ever be painful if we get negative feedback, but this is the work of the light worker to step fully through her own human experience and to claim radical responsibility for every area of her life.
Hey friend. Okay. So it's podcast recommendation time and you're just like me and we love podcasts. So I'm so excited to share with you one of my favorite shows right now, which is Imperfect Action, hosted by Steph Taylor and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. Now, if you want marketing insights without the fluff, you're going to want to tune in because Steph really dives into the meat and potatoes of marketing. I mean, I loved one of her most recent shows where it was talking all about audience growth. And she shares her 2-part formula so that growing your audience doesn't have to feel so hard. Plus, she even shares how you can fix it and fix your current strategy if you only have one part of the formula and not the other. I mean, she's like, it's 2 parts, but I'm even going to show you how to do it with 1 part. This episode is so good and was an absolute game changer in my strategies. And it's filled with real, actionable advice from a marketing pro. Listen to Imperfect Action wherever you get your podcasts. Hey, Product Boss. Okay, so you know that I am on a mission to empower women all over the world to build product-based businesses that give them the security and freedom to build their dream business, which will also lead to the life of their dreams. So I know that I can help you do this by teaching you how to nail the core 4 foundational pillars of a standout business. And it's going to turn your business into something that feels like it's kind of struggling along or limping along to standing out in a crowded market and getting more customers. So I am so excited to invite you to join my free masterclass, your 4-step playbook to stand out in a crowded market and get more customers so that you can grow your business no matter where you sell. In just 90 minutes, I'm going to teach you the core 4 foundational pieces your business might be missing, how to stop wasting time and money on things that don't work, and what to focus on instead. I mean, these are proven ways to build an audience that buys from you and that tells their friends about you. So what I want to do is I want to unlock what can be blocking you from growing a profitable business and how you can turn it around pretty instantly. All you have to do is come join me inside of this totally free masterclass. Head to theproductboss.com/standout to get access. Again, that's theproductboss.com/standout. Now back to the show. Just so good. I think it's interesting as you're saying all this, I'm just like, yeah, you're speaking to me because I just pulled from one of my decks the other day. I have a moon deck. And I pulled a card and it was the dark goddess. And I think it was the new moon card. And I'm in it always says, it's like, you're in like the darkest before the dawn. Right. And And so there's this, and it is, I feel like I'm walking through it, and I told you, like, I lost my dad and I didn't have, our relationship was strained, but I said this at his funeral, that in order to love him, I had to have my distance from him. And then I could really, truly love him, and vice versa. So the idea here for me is that, it's one thing I realized with this chapter of my life is like, oh, the way I interpreted my childhood, or the way that story, it's that chapter, that book is closed in a lot of ways. So where do I want to be? How do I want to grow through this? And I come from a lot of scarcity. I mean, the way I grew up. And so my husband and I had this conversation recently as I was reading your book in Canada, and surrounded by the like Canadian Rockies. It was amazing. I was like, this is the perfect book. Was that he had said to me, he's like, even if, cause I have the scarcity that I'm going to end up with no money, homeless, under a bridge. He's like, okay, so let's say you do, cause I've just moved into my dream house and it's so scary to me. Like, I feel like I'm going to lose it. Just honest how, like, it's unworking this stuff in my brain. And so he's like, so you do, and you do end up, homeless under a bridge. You will go through that, work it out, and then come out the other side with another version of yourself. And so that's what I've realized, and what you're speaking to and through is like, we've survived 100% of our worst days. We've walked it. We've been through our darkness. And so it's this idea of what have we become? And so I've gone back to, and I've used this practice is sort of like, when else have I felt this way? When else did I feel the scarcity, and that I did overcome it? I did walk through it. And so I love the light and the dark, because the dark is where we find the light. Like, the dark is where we have to find a way to make the light happen. And we wouldn't do that if it was always light, right? We wouldn't do that if we weren't challenged. Who would we be?
Who would we be? And I say this in my book, all throughout the book, but, and I'm very obviously close to this book as it's about to launch. But if you allow me to get woo again, Jacqueline, like, I really believe we choose to come here. We elect our soul. Our souls are on an assignment to incarnate here on this planet, which is, again, filled with duality. And there's a lot of pain on this planet. There's a lot. I mean, look around, turn on the news. Like, there's so much polarity, and it's reflected in the macro and the micro in our daily lives. And in certain ways, we are designed to suffer and get our hearts broken and experience trauma and fail and all of these sort of dark, shadowy things. But I believe, this is my personal belief, that those things happen for us for our soul's evolution, and that we're not meant to stay there. We can choose to stay there, but we shouldn't. We can choose to work with it, move through it, empower ourselves with it, learn from it, heal it. And on the other side of those moments, whether they're big rock bottoms or someone just said something to you on Instagram that offended you and you had big feelings come up, like, how do we walk through it, not avoid it, ignore it, deny it, go around it, but really move through it, move it through us? And on the other side of that is radical, I think, joy and freedom and, bliss and peace and all of these higher vibrational emotions that are also here for us to experience, and that we're ultimately designed for. And that these moments of darkness, if you will, are really for our highest evolution. Like, that's my favorite word, is evolution. It's what we've come here to do. And our businesses operate the same way. Like, it's not meant to go in a straight line ascending up all the time. Like, we go through cycles and rhythms with our businesses, deaths of people leaving our teams, or, launches failing, or whatever it is. But there's always rebirth. That's the seasons, like summer, autumn, winter, and spring. But it's really, like, someone said that to me once. I was actually talking to my friend who's an astrologer, and she's like, if all things on this planet are nature, which it is, why would we expect our businesses to operate any differently than those cycles? And our lives and our relationships and our identities operate in the same way. And so in certain ways, to embrace the dark, let me just say, you'll never feel more alive than when you're going through a heartbreak or you're going through a failure, and to really allow that to move through you, and to give your life over to a higher power and say, please use me and move through me, I think is, such a magnificent way of navigating the human experience.
It is. And it's an interesting thing. I mean, I love that we're having this discussion now for the journey that I'm on. But one of the things I used to say is like, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to go build a webinar, or I have to go take a meeting. Right. And even with the things that feel hard or dark, it's like instead I get to use the words I get to. And so even, and I think, for the audience to hear this is that even in the hardest times, it's like, I get to go figure this out because there is no easy button. I know we're like sold this idea of easy button, and when it's easy, great, but you're forgetting all the work you did to get you to that point when you hit the ease. And then that next version of you, the next level up, you got to go through it again to get to that next version. So for me right now, and you and I talked about this in person, I was telling you about my pattern app, and it was like depth and growth. I have like 2 years of hard, it feels like, from this is, we're talking about astrology. But then, and I was fearing it, I was reading it, I was like, oh, this is going to come and what's going to happen. And it's very accurate for what I'm going through. But I get to walk through it because, as you say, evolution, I'm actually excited about the next version of me. And I'm in my 40s, and it's sort of like, oh, I wish I did this earlier. I wish I went through this earlier, so my mind would have been different. But it's not that, right? We're on this journey, and as long as we get to be on this planet, it's what we learn and we take with us as we do it. And so I'm excited about this next version. And you're speaking so much to that right now.
A blending of business and spirituality, or call it personal development, is essential. I believe, like, I believe your business will only grow to the extent of which you grow as a human being, as a founder, as a CEO, as an owner. There's nothing that will stretch you actually more on a personal, emotional, and mental level than running a business. So why wouldn't you dedicate your attention to what's happening in your internal world in order to optimize what's happening in your external world? They're completely conjoined. And so I love that we're having this conversation too, because it's the stuff that I'm most passionate about. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much money someone makes, or how many products they launch in a year, or how many people follow you on social media, or if you're a mom or you're not a mom, we're all people. We're all people, and we all struggle with very similar things, just different circumstances. And so to talk about it out loud is, I think, really, hopefully, freeing for people, and gives people the permission to embrace this part of them, because it's, you can't have one without the other if you're not continually growing.
Yeah. So good. So I want to kind of dig into this concept that you've written about, and I want to talk about what inspired you to write about the 8 embodiments of divine feminine wealth. Like, how did this come to life for you?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So much to say about this. So going back to this moment when I hit financial rock bottom, right? I was broke. Like, I went broke at 33, and I had to ask my parents to help me pay my phone bill because AT&T was going to shut it off. Like, that left a trauma response in my body when it came to money. And I'd already had a bunch of money noise. So flash forward to when I started Simply Be, and I started making a ton of money. We hit $1 million in revenue in 18 months. It was then multi-million. Our business was doubling, tripling every year. And all of a sudden I felt like I was, quote unquote, in abundance. But the truth was, I never really stopped just simply running from scarcity. I was building my business, making all this money so that I wouldn't die again. It was this deep drive from this experience and sense of survival. And survival is really a hardwired DNA that we all have because of the way humanity has evolved, but we're not being chased by tigers anymore, and we aren't living without shelter. And, we are safe now. We actually are. And so this experience of safety in the body, to receive money, to trust money, to know that money was coming, to get my body into a frequency of magnetism so I didn't have to grip and hustle for it, but that I could attract it instead. This really opened up the doors to actually making more money than I'd ever made when I switched this vibration, when it really became a choice of trust and ease, and learning how to circulate money and work with it, and the principles of reciprocity, like what I'm giving, I've got to get, and what I'm getting, I've got to give, and equanimity, and like all of these things just shifted my financial life. And I look around the space of, manifestation, law of attraction, all the things that we all know about. And I'm here for that conversation. And I think it's an important conversation, but it's very much about the cognitive, like see it to believe it, build your vision board, say your affirmations, have the neuroplasticity in your brain start to shift so that you can see the world with more abundance. I like that concept, but I do believe that it is what I call the content, not the context. And that's why I call those principles in the book the 8 divine feminine embodiments. They're not principles, they're not laws. They're embodiments, because we have to get really aligned in our bodies to allow money to come through. And when you do that, when you really click into that, and I talk about how you do that in my book, your nervous system calms down. You don't burn out. You have a lot more trust around what's meant for you is coming, and to really not just think that, but feel that and experience that fully in your system creates so much more flow. And I'm a little funny around the word manifestation because I think it's become a bit commercialized and overused. And I didn't use the word manifestation. Wealth, like what is wealth? Manifesting is like a constant action, whereas wealth is a state of being. And that is really one of the biggest things I want to teach women, is how to rewire what I call your abundance codes. Your codes being literally your wiring, how your DNA, your system has been set up based on your parents' need for survival. Like we live in 2024 now. We're creating a new reality. We are of a different generation that gets to reset the future generations. And if we can really click out of survival and find ourselves in a state of true safety. And that's what I teach my clients. That's what I've really dedicated that whole chapter to. And I just don't think a lot of people are looking at how money lives in our lives within the body versus the mind. And that's, I think, a pretty new concept. So I'm excited for people to read that.
Yeah, I think, and I've done vision boards, ever since The Secret.
Yeah, who hasn't?
Yeah, I know. If you all remember, back was in the 90s, it was The Secret and the book, and there was a thing, and it was all about like, if you think about bills, you're going to get bills sent to you. And so I've done vision boards because I'm a very, very visual person, which PS, I wanted to bring this up. You owned a branding agency when your calendar is rainbow coated. It's like,
sorry, I can't not.
Obviously. So pretty.
Thank you.
But I think, and that's also the journey. And I'm talking about my journey because I just, for my audience knowing me for so long and seeing all the changes that have happened even in the last year, it's just this journey that I'm going on and through now. And it's amazing the people who are coming into my life or my world, that are experiencing it. So this idea of manifestation, I used to think, okay, but I want this, or I'm going to put up I'm going to, do a vision board. And I think, like you said, that's like top level. That's sort of, for the general public. Right. And it's cool because it's one layer deeper than, and we were talking about health, medicine versus like healing your body or healing your gut or finding like the core thing. So it's like one level deeper, which I think is amazing. And then that level deeper than that is like, well, starting to understand manifestation. And that was the journey I wanted to go on this year because I wanted to get out of that cycle and have that energy, that vibrational energy, that frequency. And I would hear people talk about it. Like, I don't understand, like it doesn't make sense. And so in reading your book, it's interesting because you share so many stories about frequency, energy, things coming through you. And I think that a lot of us have experienced that in a different point in our life. We just don't pay attention enough. We're so much in our brains instead of our bodies, right? And this, I feel like people, like if you are hiking and you walk out to a mountain and you look at it at like a beautiful lake, right? You might get a hit, or you're in a space that you're like, I feel like I've been here before. Or you feel really called spiritually or religiously. It's the way that my husband feels like when he goes to church, for example. He just feels this feeling, or when he's around a group of people. And so I think it's like tapping into that. As we are, and I love that you're saying like it's in this pursuit of wealth because, there's that. How do we start to, I know we can read your book, but this idea of starting to, what would be some of like the first step changes? Because I know you're like, this is woo. And so if somebody's like trying to go from vision board to just a layer deeper, what would be something that they could kind of start to do or hold? Maybe not do because that's so masculine and not feminine. Give me some tips.
So the 8 divine feminine embodiments of wealth are frequency, trust, service, equanimity, reciprocity, self-sovereignty, receptivity, and I can kind of unpack a few of those. I think there was 7, but there's 8 of them. And sovereignty, for example, when somebody isn't honoring their end of the bargain, if you will, if somebody isn't showing up as a great client or is asking for more than what you're giving or overstepping boundaries, like just simply holding the line and knowing that your time, your energy has an incredible amount of value, and to draw better contracts up from the beginning, set more clear expectations in the way that you engage your partnerships and contracts, holding the sense of sovereignty, which is a little different than boundaries. Like boundaries feels very guarded, and sovereignty is more of an internalized understanding that you are the prize and that you don't have to give yourself over to anybody that doesn't feel good in an alignment, and cutting cords. And while that can seem really scary, like, well, wait, this client or this partner is going to commit to $100,000 in a, partnership, and it doesn't feel good and they're blowing me up all the time. And for you to cut the cord and say, I don't need this. I can trust, that's another value, an embodiment, that there's more where this is coming from, and holding that in your body, like, try it. The universe listens. And when doors close, windows open. One of my favorite embodiments is receptivity. When we think about the divine feminine, she is really I call upon the image, which is all throughout the book, this upside down triangle, this downward facing triangle that actually looks like the womb, and it's a feminine expression, which is the dark black void of all creation, and it's non-doing, and it creates this of pull, like of magnetism to it. It's negative energy actually, and it pulls it to when we are literally in the state of nothingness and receptivity. And one of my favorite tips in the book, and actually was a tip that I got years ago that changed my life, is learn how to receive a compliment. When someone says something nice to you, we're so quick, especially as women, to deflect it. Oh my God, your hair looks so pretty today. Oh my God, stop. I haven't washed it in a week. You did such an incredible job on that pitch. Really? I didn't think it was that great. Did I do a great, thank you, but no, like, we can't even say thank you. And so one of my favorite life hacks, frankly, is when someone says something nice to you, put your hand on your heart, take a beat, look that person in the eye, and just simply say, thank you. I received that. Even if you don't fully believe what that person said to you, say it anyway. It'll start to create a system reset for you to truly receive a positive reflection and amplification of who you are. And I say it all the time, if we can't even accept a compliment, how are we going to expect to receive millions of dollars in our banks, the next great opportunity, keynote talk, or love partnership we're calling in? So when you get, like, you ever go to a restaurant and the server brings you an extra dish and you're like, oh, that wasn't for us. And they're like, it's okay. We put it on your table. You can just keep it. It's like looking at those things as love letters from the universe that you deserve to receive when you get upgraded on the airline or in a higher quality room at the hotel. Like, really switching your vantage point as the magnet, like, things are just coming to me effortlessly. That's one of my all-time favorite embodiments. And just, if you go through the book, there's practices and stories behind each of these embodiments that I just believe that if we put into our systems as muscle memory, we start to create that energetic frequency shift in our lives, and we become creators of wealth more effortlessly because we can hold it, one, and we feel deserving to receive it too, and know our worth. It's a practice, but it's I think the most beautiful practice we can dedicate our lives to.
That's beautiful. And I remember I was in the room at a retreat that I was at with a fellow friend, and she would always put her hand on her heart. And I'm like, that's who I want to be when I grow up. Right. Like, you could tell she was receiving. And so I started to feel that as well, where it was like that, like, I received that. Right. Cause you kind of like, that's when you get out of your mind and into your body. That's when the light does shine through you. Like, you do start to receive. And you will, there's days where people are like, why are all these windows opening? Right. Like, why do I get the parking spot and this happened and this happened? And you're like, oh, you were like in alignment that day, right? The vibe was good, and we can keep that energy going. So I love everything that you've shared, your insight, your experience. I mean, we've talked a lot, from the journey of burnout through then, going through the dark, to be the light, but holding both. We need both, right? It's the darkest before the dawn. Sunrises wouldn't be as beautiful and sunsets wouldn't be as beautiful if we didn't then see the stars at night, you know? So for our listeners, if you want to dive deeper into Jessica's book, which we're going to be doing a giveaway. So make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Product Boss, because I want to gift this to many of you. It's the light work from burning out to burning bright, how to find your light after the side hustle. So Jessica, tell us how we can buy the book, support you, follow you, all the things.
Of course, come find me on Instagram at Jessica Zweig. I'd love to meet Jacqueline Snyder's community. Anyone who's attracted to her is my kind of people because she's amazing, highest vibes, most genuine, and like attracts like. You can, of course, go buy the book wherever books are sold. But if you actually go to jessicazweig.com/breakthrough, I'm hosting a live virtual summit on August 8th with Michael Beckwith, who's the OG of spirituality, Koya Webb, who's a wellness guru and celebrity coach, and Danielle Page, who's an astrologer, one of the world's biggest. And we're hosting an event called Breakthrough to a New You, which is 6 straight hours of feminine wealth, energetics, business mastery, physical upgrades, spiritual manifestations, astrology readings. It's $35. It includes the book. You get this full day. You can pop in and out all day long. It's going to be the event I'm calling over the summer. It's happening on what's called Lionsgate, which is August 8th. And it's in the year 2024, which is 2 + 2 = 4, making it 8. So it's 888. It's a date that we're never going to get again in our entire lives. It's a once in a generation day. And 8 is the number of money. 8 is the number of wealth and financial prosperity, infinite possibilities. It's literally the infinity sign. And so it's a portal. It's a day that we get into alignment with another star in our galaxy called Sirius, our sun star. And all of this, they say, and I believe this to be true. I love Lionsgate. I feel it every year. All of this cosmic information comes down onto the planet. You'll feel this in the subtle realms, even if you're not, attuned, you'll still feel it. But the more intention we bring to a day like this, the more our manifestations actually accelerate. And so it's a really amazing event. And I'd love for your community to come out for it. It's on sale till the morning of August 8th. So jessicazweig.com/breakthrough is where you go and you'll get the book.
I to be in that, I'm there. This is so exciting. So, and you all get the book. If you don't win it but get both, right? Because you said $35?
$35. You get the book and the event. You also get some meditations I've recorded. It's a really juicy experience, and it's only $35.
Yeah. For 6 hours of just somebody pouring into you or people pouring in in the Jewish religion, at Hanukkah, like when we light our candles, it's you take one candle, the shamash, and then you light all other candles with that candle, right? You're not using matches. And I think you are that. You are the light that's lighting the light. So thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you. I received that.
Isn't Jessica just amazing? I'm so grateful that she was on the show. I'm just, the work she does and the light work, which is what's in this book, is just going to be so transformational for so many women around the world. And I'd love to gift one of you out there her book. So if you come over to Instagram and you follow us, we're doing a giveaway for the light work, Reclaim Your Feminine Power, Live Your Cosmic Truth, and Illuminate the World. We're going to be doing a giveaway. So make sure to come over to Instagram. And if not, you can grab the book yourself. Okay. Because it's so good. I've read it front to back. It's something that I feel like I'm going to reread multiple times. And I'm so excited that I'm sharing this with you here as well. All right, my friends, I hope you love her as much as I do. I hope this episode was inspirational to you. And if it is, let me know over on Instagram, send me a DM. I would love to chat with you about it. And if you haven't done so already, I know I ask this every episode, but it just means so much to me. If you haven't done so, would you mind leaving a review for the podcast? It just helps us get in front of more people. It helps us impact more product-based business owners. And if you've taken away any nugget in this episode, I know that sharing it with other people that could use that help as well will just keep lighting lights for people around the world. You keep lighting lights for others. And so I'd be so grateful, and I know they would too. All right, my friends, till the next one. Hey, before you go, I want to remind you, and you know this, that I am on a mission to empower women all over the world to build product-based businesses that give them the security and freedom that they desire to build the life of their dreams. So I know I can help you do this by teaching you how to nail the core 4 foundational pillars of a standout brand. And what I've seen people do is they've gone from coming up with an idea to making a product and jumping to sell it, but they've missed the core 4 foundations. So I am so excited to invite you to join my totally free masterclass, your 4-step playbook to stand out in a crowded market and get more customers so that you can grow your business of your dreams, no matter where you sell and no matter what you sell. In just 90 minutes, I'm going to teach you the core 4 foundational pieces your business might be missing, how you can stop wasting time and money on things that don't work, and how you can focus on things that are going to work instead. I also want to teach you my proven ways to build an audience that buys from you and tells their friends about you. And we're going to dig into what might be blocking you from your growth and your potential and how you can turn it around. And really, my friend, I just want to teach you how you can build a standout brand and get more customers and have more sales. It's going to be amazing, and I cannot wait for you to dive in. So come join me, grab your totally free spot, and head to theproductboss.com/standout to get access. Again, head to theproductboss.com/standout to get access.